In the 2010s, one YouTube empire captured the hearts of young girls everywhere. It was known as 𝘀𝗵𝘁, or SAKS for short, and it was a YouTube conglomerate that operated upwards of 8 different channels, the most popular of which was SevenSuperGirls.
Hey guys, it's SevenSuperGirls!
Which had almost 10 million subscribers in its heyday. The idea behind the channel was simple. Each channel featured 7 young girls who each had a day of the week that they would upload. The videos were usually challenges, skits, room tours, and the like, none of which were of particularly high quality, but they had that homemade appeal that made millions of young girls want to be their friends.
You know what I really wanted for Christmas? Justin Bieber.
The average age of the Supergirls was around 14, though many of them started making videos much younger, and their audience was around 7 to 10 years old. With millions of subscribers and a dedicated following, these kids were the ultimate YouTube success story. However, behind the scenes, something much darker was occurring. You see, many people assumed that these girls were making these videos for fun, that they were all best friends, and it was probably their mums filming and moderating the channels. But we would find out much later that this YouTube empire was actually being run by a middle-aged British man named Ian Rylett, who was auditioning these kids to be on the channels, and the videos that were once considered a beacon of wholesome content for kids was actually a toxic environment behind the scenes in which these children were being manipulated, exploited, and eventually abused by Ian. It's your Uncle Herman here, I'm still an alpha male, and this is the dark history and abrupt end of the SevenSuperGirls. Ian Rylett started the 𝘀𝗵𝘁 channel in 2008. He claims that he simply started it as a channel where his daughter and her friends could post fun videos. But after his daughter aged out of the childlike nature of the videos, he decided to start auditioning girls to fill her role. And so the concept of the channels were born. SevenSuperGirls was the most popular, but directly under them, competing for the top spot, was 𝘀𝗵𝘁, 7 Perfect Angels, 7 Fabulous Teens, 7 Cool Tweens, 7 Fantastic Girls, and 7 Twinkling Tweens. There were also separate channels for the girls who did gymnastics and the girls who did dance. Notably, the comments were disabled on these channels, likely because it would show who was actually watching. Each channel had 7 different girls, and these girls could be promoted across the channels. For example, Ellie Louise joined 7 Twinkling Tweens when she was 12 years old, but this channel was only for girls 13 and under, so then she moved to 7 Fantastic Girls, and eventually she ended up on 7 Perfect Angels and then SevenSuperGirls in her later teens. It was pretty typical for the girls to move up the channels, as each one had a particular age range and demographic, but the most coveted spot was to be on the SevenSuperGirls channel. From 2012 to 2017, one of the most popular girls on this channel was Kaelyn, who was also the main profile picture and arguably the face of the channel, with her skits reaching hundreds of millions of views. Kaelyn has more recently come forwards about her experiences on the channel, which I will be referencing throughout this video, and I'll also link her full videos in the description. So these girls would make videos in their own time and send them to Ian to upload. For years, not a day went by without a video being uploaded on each channel. As the channels got more popular, Ian organised sponsored vacations for the girls where they would all go to film together and do organised meetups and Q&As with their young fans. And it was here that they would all have to be subjected to Ian in person. Though he monitored them remotely by demanding Skype calls with every girl each week, the orchestrated meetups were where he did some of the most damage, which we will go into later. Interestingly, on these trips, Ian would not want to be known as the manager of the channels. He did not want to be associated or implicated as the mastermind behind it. And so, in order to put parents and fans at ease, according to ex-member Kaelyn, Ian gave a woman named Lauren the role of creative director and let her be the public face of the channel.
When we would do these meet and greets, we had like a host. This was his cover. Lauren, who I love so dearly. She was on one of the channels at one point and then I think left the channels but was working with him on the show. Like she was like the creative director. So she would help with themes and video ideas and she would communicate with us sometimes and she would host the meet and greets and she came on every trip. She was like our big sister. Like we all loved Lauren. She's such a sweet person and she would host the meet and greets and he would have us basically lie and cover and say that Lauren was like the channel director, which everyone took as the channel manager. This is a question I get all the time. They're like, I thought it was that girl that blah, 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 blah. I thought it was her I thought it was Lauren that managed the channels. He, I think, wanted us to say that because he didn't want people to know that it was him.
With Lauren as the face of the channel during meetups and events, parents were put at ease. But this was all a carefully crafted illusion that successfully masked years of manipulation, control, and abuse at the hands of the man who was employing these young girls. According to the testimonies of the girls who were on the channels, the control and manipulation started with Ian's strict rules about what they could and couldn't look like, and the severe punishments for not following them. Before we dissect these rules, I wouldn't be able to make these kinds of videos without the help of a sponsor, and so I want to take a quick moment to thank my sponsor for this video, 𝘀𝗵𝘁. 𝘀𝗵𝘁 help you clean up the trail of personal data that ends up on random data broker websites, sites that basically collect and sell all of your private information without your knowledge. 𝘀𝗵𝘁 helps you take back control of your personal data, and they wipe it from these sites, which not only protects your identity online, but also stops you from receiving spam calls and emails, which are getting increasingly creative these days. Since I signed up for 𝘀𝗵𝘁, I get regular privacy reports from them. The first one honestly surprised me. They found my info on dozens of sites that I'd never even heard of, and then they took care of it. Their team submitted all of the removal requests on my behalf to get my data taken off these sites. It's super low effort on my part, but they keep doing the work in the background, checking regularly and removing information as it pops back up and keeping me in the loop the whole time. If that sounds like something you want to do, head to joindeleteme.com/uncle and use code UNCLE at checkout for 20% off any plan. Thank you again to 𝘀𝗵𝘁 for sponsoring this video and for helping me and my subscribers keep our personal data out of prying hands. Ian began to enforce strict rules that he argued were to maintain a childlike image and appeal for the channel's audience. These rules included making the girls wear clothes that made them look younger than they were, not letting them wear any makeup. He also had strict rules about their body hair, not letting them shave their legs or pluck their eyebrows. Kaelyn spoke of desperately wanting to pluck her eyebrows, and one day she caved and plucked just a few hairs, and Ian immediately noticed and withheld her income as punishment.
I plucked my eyebrows one night. I like plucked a few hairs. It was like 5. I'm not even joking. Like barely anything. I looked in the mirror and I could tell like the very slightest, it like barely looked any different. And then I started to get scared. I was like, I don't want to get in trouble. So I stopped. I send in my video to him that week. Immediately I get like a whole entire dissection of my video in my Skype messages. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And he is contacting my mom and he's going, it looks like Kaelyn has plucked off a couple of hairs off of her left eyebrow. Did she pluck her eyebrow? And at first my mom was like, oh my God, like I'm just gonna lie, and was like, no. He was so insistent. He kept asking like, ask her right now, like, are you sure? He made us go on a call. And he made me admit to my mom, even though she already knew, and him, that I did in fact pluck a little bit off my eyebrows. I got in so much trouble with it. He was so angry. So he then goes on to tell me that I'm gonna lose out on all my sponsorships for the next couple months as a punishment. He isn't going to like let me be in any of the sponsored videos. He did not send me any of the sponsored clothing. All the other girls got to keep doing their sponsorships and keep getting, you know, their money from it. I was not allowed to. I was completely cut off, and he also took portions out of my income because I plucked 5 hairs on my eyebrow. And on top of all of that, for the next like 6 months, I had to send him up close photos of my face to prove that my eyebrows were growing out. It's like he like got off on like controlling us. It was so strange. Like he loved to be in control, and he knew he could because he was literally like holding all of our opportunities in his hands.
Another ex-member, Emily, shows emails of Ian telling her that she had to wear skirts and shorts no matter the weather, that she had to show her full body, and that she always had to have bare feet in her videos, and if she did not comply, she would be punished.
So I got on 𝘀𝗂𝘂𝗀𝗻, and I think there was a few rules there. I remember you had to wear summer outfits in all of your videos, even like when it was middle of winter. If you went outside to film, you would have to be wearing a skirt or a dress or shorts, and I remember how awkward that was to be filming in like a skirt in winter. And also I remember when I was on 𝘀𝗂𝘂𝗀𝗻, I got told about shots. So when you were filming in a skirt, your shot could be mid-length, just below the skirt, but you had to make sure your whole outfit was in it. Whereas if you were wearing, I think it was shorts, you had to have a full body shot. So all of your shots, your intro and outro had to be your whole body. And like if you did a shot like this, for example, in like for an outro and intro, you would literally be in so much trouble. Your video would not be sponsored and you'd get threatened to be moved down rankings. So you basically had to look like a young child. Weren't allowed to wear any bras because the manager used to say, yeah, this is aimed at a young audience. You've got to just act like you're really young, which at the time I kind of struggled with, but I did it because I was so grateful to be on the channel.
Kaelyn has also spoken about the barefoot rule and says that she believes that many of his rules were specifically catering to fetish audiences.
I fully 100% I believe that every rule he made up was a weird thing that started to kind of unveil as he got more and more in control and more money hungry.
To the average young viewer, the fact that they were always barefoot, always wearing skirts, and always acting younger than they were was not noticeable. Their core audience was under 10 years old, and many of them wanted to be these girls. These were their role models. But beyond the core audience was a very specific audience of predators that Ian appeared to be catering to through his strange rules. Though all of the channels have now been taken down, it's obvious from these Facebook comments that one Reddit user screenshotted that known predators were watching these videos. Ian allegedly also told the girls that they could not wear bras. Even as they reached their late teens, some as old as 17 were still having to look and act like a 12-year-old for the channel. Even though their audience was growing up with them, Ian insisted that they had to remain young for their audience.
Can't show you bra straps, can't wear like a bralette or anything like this, fair enough, because a child wouldn't do that and we're trying to be relatable to them. But it got like stranger to the fact where it was like, you shouldn't need to wear a bra, which obviously because we're teenagers, we did. Like the audience might not, but we did because we were teenagers, and yeah, which kind of made us all like uncomfortable. That's when the channel started becoming like too much scandal. Like it was like, no, these rules are uncomfortable, don't want to do this anymore.
Also, I just want to say, in the gymnastics video, we weren't allowed to wear any bras underneath our leotards, any underwear. Also, we'd always have to send approval pictures of every single outfit we wore in every single video to the sponsors before the video went live, so that it could be approved by the sponsors. So we'd have to send a front shot, a side shot and a back shot, and we send that to the manager and he'd send it to the sponsors. That's what he said. And then that would get approved, and if it didn't get approved, you would have to send more photos or you'd get sent a different outfit. But all of the sizing of the clothes were literally like, I think my size was like 11 to 12 or something crazy like that. Like it was children's clothes. It wasn't adults' clothes. It was always children's clothes and children's sizes.
Emily talks here about having to send approval pictures to Ian of her outfits for the sponsors. This is something that many of the girls have spoken about, some of them speculating if the sponsors really asked for this at all, or if Ian was saving all of these photos to a private drive for his own disgusting uses. Nobody but Ian ever spoke to these alleged sponsors, and nobody but Ian was allowed to have direct access to the channel.
Trust me, we tried. Everyone tried to get passwords to get into the channels, but no one knew the passwords. When we uploaded our videos, we kind of had to send them through like a Dropbox. We didn't directly upload them, but this meant that no one knew the passwords, no one could find out the passwords, and the channels had to close rather than being passed on to one of us.
Therefore, he could communicate that certain brands wanted things without anybody questioning the validity of his claims. These kids and their parents had never worked with big brands before. They didn't know what they needed, and many of them had no reason to question why Ian would need all of these supposed outfit pictures to send to the brand. Ian held all of the passwords to the channels, he held all of their income, and he could increase or decrease it at will. He was able to do as he pleased behind the scenes whilst maintaining total control. For example, on one occasion, he allegedly told these young girls that the sponsor needed B-roll footage of them in bikinis that they had been sent by a brand.
He would tell us that our sponsors wanted just like raw, uncut B-roll footage of us in the sponsored swimsuits. It was usually like whatever the swimsuit brand we were sponsored by was at the time. It would be like a bunch of footage of us just like playing in the pool. And he would go outside and we would all be playing in the pool and he would film us. Always him, for some reason. And he would film us for like 30 minutes, I don't know, give or take. He would like instruct us what to do, have us like go down water slides, whatever it was, do a handstand, like jump in the pool. And it was like for the sponsors to use in their advertisements. I don't think it was. I don't know what he was doing with that footage. It could be anywhere. I've never seen the footage. And that's why I feel in my heart that something was really off about that. And I remember that used to freak all of us out. And near the end, before we all left, we all started kind of putting the pieces together because he would do it every trip. If it was being used in an advertisement or being used for something, we would have seen it somewhere.
An anonymous member of these channels told Buzzfeed News, "Some of us started to get the feeling that we were being groomed for some darker audience. Things that didn't feel weird at the time, like the themes, the leotards, and the camera angles, started to feel strange. I started to get that feeling, especially when you think that some of these girls are 9 years old. But no matter how many red flags there were, it wasn't easy to get out of. For many of these girls, their families were relying on the income that Ian provided them, and this could fluctuate depending on how well your videos were performing and how well you followed his rules. Ian was able to use his financial control over the girls and their parents to manipulate them and get them to do as he pleased. He was also able to use their naivety to his advantage with both the girls and their parents. The channel started in 2008. It grew as YouTube did. Nobody in 2012 really knew how people were making money on YouTube. It was something that a lucky few did. It was a new job that no one had ever done before. Influencers were not really a thing yet, and so when these kids begged their parents to let them audition for a YouTube channel, it seemed innocent enough. There was no frame of reference for proper conduct. None of these people had ever heard of a YouTube brand deal before. I think it's easy for us to blame the parents for not seeing through Ian, but as many of the ex-members can attest, their parents were just as in the dark as they were. Ian presented himself as someone who understood this strange new internet frontier, and he promised these girls fame, fun, and a career. To parents unfamiliar with this world, he seemed like a mentor and someone who could turn their child's passion into an opportunity. In hindsight, the red flags are glaring, but back then, without a roadmap for what success or exploitation looked like on YouTube, many parents didn't recognize the danger until it was far too late. I am aware that I'm giving these parents the benefit of the doubt. I know I would be very wary of a middle-aged man running a channel like this, but many of the ex-members have said that their parents had their own association and they had semi-regular meetings with Ian. We don't know what went on during those meetings or if any red flags were raised, but presumably they felt at ease enough with him to let him employ and manage their daughters. Whether or not the parents knew about the emails that Ian was sending requesting photos is unclear. I think it's likely that those conversations were happening just between the girls and Ian, and that he was able to hide certain things from their parents. Around 2017, many of the girls that we'd grown up with on the SevenSuperGirls channel started to leave. Kaelyn described leaving just before her 17th birthday as a birthday gift to herself, as she could finally be free of Ian and take control of her life and identity for the first time since joining SevenSuperGirls.
So by the time I left, I was done. Like, I had lost any passion that I had for it. Right before I left, I knew I was leaving. I knew that I was gonna leave right after my 17th birthday. That was like the whole plan. It was like my birthday present. Iffy.
In June of 2017, just as Kaelyn was leaving, comedian Daniel Tosh did a segment on his Comedy Central show about the channel. For many adults, this was their first ever introduction to the channel. And for some of the members of these channels and their parents, this was the very first time that they had seen this content framed as anything but innocent.
When you've seen the horrible things on the internet that I've seen, you get a nose for it. And I don't like the way SevenSuperGirls smells. That doesn't sound good. For comparison, the Beatles video for I Wanna Hold Your Hand has 13.7 million views. This video has 137 million views. Let that sink in. Who's watching all these videos of little girls in bathing suits and taped up to beds? I suspect it's not just teenage girls, it's dudes. Chomos, if you will. This channel posts a new video every single day where they guarantee and even brag that all girls are under 18 years of age, which confirms that all showbiz parents are unethical monsters. They have multiple spin-offs like 7 Perfect Angels, 7 Gymnastics Girls, 7 Twinkling Tweens, all totaling over, wait for it, 12 billion views. That's why it's time to bring back my most important segment, Lock 'em Up Immediately. All 12 billion of them.
Daniel blamed the parents for letting their children post videos like this, presuming that it was stage mums forcing their daughters to make this content. He was completely unaware of what Ian was doing behind the scenes, as we all were, but this would come to light 1 year later in the summer of 2018. On the morning of August 17th, 2018, Ian Rilett was arrested in a hotel in Orange County, Florida, where a SevenSuperGirls meetup was taking place. He was charged with child molestation, and all of the channels were taken down by YouTube. This caused a huge public reaction. Nobody knew who this man was. They had assumed that these channels were parent-run. For many who grew up with the channels, they hadn't thought about them in years. This revelation tainted childhood memories for many viewers who had once idolized the girls and the seemingly innocent skits and characters that they once loved. One commenter wrote, "When that channel was at its peak, I truly had no idea that it was being run by some creepy old man. When I was little, I truly thought that it was only being run by the 7 girls. As much as I wish I could see some of those videos again, I low-key don't want to at the same time because the memories are tainted after knowing what that creep did to those girls." The victim of Ian's that caused his arrest made a video about what happened to her. In it, she explained that Ian had given her financial bribes to go into a room alone with him and undress. She said, "He whipped out $1,000 cash out of his pocket and laid it in front of me and told me that if I did this, I would get to keep that $1,000 cash. He also told me that I wouldn't be kicked off the channel if I did this, and that he would pay me every hour that we were in a meeting or on a trip. It was like $100 an hour or something like that. At the time, me and my mum were broke. We could barely afford to pay bills. So I took the bribe because we were low on money. We really needed the money. She was only 15 at the time. She also alleges that right after it happened, she told the other girls and their parents and eventually told her mum, and they called the police. The police did not arrive with a warrant to search Ian's room, so they went to the victim first for her statement, and then they went to question Ian. But during this time, he was able to destroy any damning evidence on his computer or otherwise. The victim said they gave him a head start to clear all evidence, which he did. Ian pleaded guilty to child abuse and was sentenced to just 51 days in jail. In Florida, you can serve up to 6 months in prison for driving under the influence. Ian 𝘀𝗻 served only 51 days for running a YouTube empire that catered to pedophiles, making young girls send weekly full-body pictures to him for nearly a decade, molesting a young girl who he employed, and filming these girls in swimwear, to name a few allegations. And he is now walking free. Court documents show that he was making an estimated $1 million a year. The channel was profitable from around 2012 to 2018 when it was shut down, so that's an estimated $6 million, meaning that he is probably comfortably retired somewhere whilst his victims had their childhood and their innocence taken from them. And that's how it ended, not with justice, not with any real accountability, but with a quiet sentence and a happy retirement for Ian 𝘀𝗻. The SevenSuperGirls empire, once seen as innocent fun and creative expression for girls, was in truth a deeply controlled machine built on exploitation. What looked like harmless skits and silly challenges masked an environment where children were manipulated, objectified, and commodified by a man hiding behind the scenes and the illusion of safety. Ian 𝘀𝗻 was a predator who took advantage of a system that had no guardrails for this kind of power, and he is still walking free. We look back now and it's clear that this was not just early YouTube innocence. It was calculated. Children should never be able to make money off of social media. It's exploitation hiding in plain sight, and people get away with it because the parents of these children that watch this stuff aren't really paying attention to what their kids are watching online. And the predators watching are able to do it freely because most parents could never even fathom that predators were watching the same content that their kids were watching. If you or someone you know has been affected by the issues discussed in this video, please reach out to one of the following organizations for support. Their numbers are on the screen now and in the description. There is no happy ending to this story, and I'm sure based on the trends of my previous videos that this will end up as another Netflix documentary in a few years. But until then, I have been your Uncle Herman, and thank you for watching.